The unimaginable is happening. Rachel Reeves is on the brink of disaster, and the Bank of England wants her gone. Not tomorrow, not next month, now. Keir Starmer is scrambling behind closed doors, his frustration boiling over as he tries to contain a crisis that threatens to consume his government from within. But the real question isn't just why Reeves is failing. It's why Starmer is so determined to keep her in power, no matter the cost. What's really going on behind Westminster's closed doors? Is this just another episode of economic mismanagement? Or is there something far more sinister at play? Because make no mistake, this is not just about fiscal policy anymore. This is about power, influence, and the kind of political cover-ups that have brought down governments before. For months, tensions between Reeves and the Bank of England have been simmering, but now they're at a breaking point. Senior figures within the bank, including Governor Andrew Bailey, have lost all faith in her ability to steer the UK's economy in the right direction. Internal discussions have become more urgent, with some officials now insisting that the only viable solution is her immediate removal. And here's where things get even more explosive, because this isn't just about economic mismanagement. There are whispers of something much deeper, much more dangerous, lurking beneath the surface. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Why is the Bank of England so desperate to see Reeves go? It all boils down to one thing: Labour's economic strategy, or rather, the complete lack of one. Reeves came into office promising stability, growth, a clean break from the economic chaos of past governments. But what has she actually delivered? Stagnation. Inflation that refuses to budge. Policies that, according to many experts, are actively making things worse, not better. And here's the kicker: the Bank of England was never supposed to be Labour's safety net. Yet Reeves has been banking on them to bail her out, hoping that continued rate cuts would mask the fundamental flaws in her economic policies. But reality has a way of catching up. The Bank of England has slashed interest rates 3 times since Labour came to power, yet the economy remains in freefall. Inflation remains stubbornly high. Growth is practically non-existent. Business confidence is at rock bottom. And now, those inside the bank are saying what many have suspected for months: Rachel Reeves is out of her depth. But here's where things get really interesting, because it's not just Reeves' incompetence that's keeping her in the spotlight. It's the growing suspicion that she is being shielded, not because she's capable, but because of who she's connected to. And this raises the ultimate question: if Reeves is so bad at her job, why is Keir Starmer so determined to keep her in place? Labour insiders are growing restless. There are rumours, whispers of a much deeper rift between the party and the Bank of England. There are allegations, unspoken but undeniable, that Starmer is protecting Reeves for reasons that go far beyond politics. And that, right there, is where this story takes a dramatic turn. Behind the scenes, Labour is scrambling to keep control of the narrative. Senior officials know the truth: Reeves isn't just struggling as Chancellor, she's becoming a liability. And yet, rather than deal with the problem, Starmer is doubling down. He's lashing out at critics, insisting that the attacks on Reeves are nothing more than political opportunism. But does he really believe that? Or is he desperately trying to contain a scandal that, if exposed, could destroy not just Reeves, but his own premiership? Because let's be clear, this is not just about fiscal policy anymore. This is about survival. The cracks in Labour's leadership have been widening for months, but now, they are threatening to shatter the very foundation of Starmer's government. Sources inside Westminster claim that key figures within the party are losing patience. They see the writing on the wall: if Reeves stays, Labour's economic credibility collapses. If she goes, the real reasons behind her protection might come to light. And then there's the Bank of England, which is no longer content to sit idly by. Behind closed doors, discussions have turned from concern to action. Reports suggest that senior figures within the bank, including Governor Andrew Bailey, no longer trust Reeves to handle Britain's economic recovery. And if the Bank of England is openly losing faith in the Chancellor, what does that mean for Labour's credibility? But let's take it even further. Because this isn't just a story about one politician losing favour. This is a political war, a war that Starmer is fighting on multiple fronts. The fallout from Reeves' disastrous policies has left the UK economy teetering on the edge, and sources say that the Bank of England has reached its limit. But instead of addressing the problem head-on, Starmer is refusing to let go. Why? What is he so desperate to hide? For months, Labour has insisted that their economic plan is working. But the facts tell a different story. Inflation remains above target. Business investment has stalled. Growth forecasts have been slashed. And behind the scenes, the Monetary Policy Committee, the body responsible for setting interest rates, has been clear. While they've been willing to lower rates in an attempt to boost economic activity, they cannot compensate for reckless government policy. And that's exactly how they view Reeves' budget, as reckless. So what happens next? If the Bank of England officially withdraws its support for Reeves, it will be a public declaration that Labour has lost control of its economic agenda. That moment could come sooner than Starmer expects. And when it does, the biggest question won't just be about Rachel Reeves, it will be about Keir Starmer himself. What is he hiding? And how far is he willing to go to protect the secret that could bring his government crashing down? Because make no mistake, the walls are closing in. The Bank of England has made its stance clear. It no longer trusts Reeves to run Britain's economy. Business leaders are losing confidence. Financial markets are faltering. Labour's economic credibility is evaporating before the public's eyes. But here's the real danger for Reeves. It's not just the Bank of England that's turning against her. It's the silent rebellion growing within her own party. Labour MPs, once loyal to Starmer, are beginning to break ranks. Senior figures are plotting their next move. And whispers of a leadership coup are growing louder. The question is no longer if Reeves will be removed, it's when. And, more importantly, how far is Starmer willing to go to protect her? The battle lines have been drawn. The clock is ticking. Reeves is teetering on the edge, clinging to a position that is becoming more untenable by the day. The markets have spoken. The financial sector has lost patience. And the whispers of a full-blown crisis are too loud to ignore. This is no longer just about economic policy. This is about power. This is about scandal. This is about survival. And when the fall finally comes, it won't just be Reeves who goes down. The situation unfolding in Westminster is nothing short of a political meltdown. What began as a simple disagreement over economic policies between the Bank of England and the Labour government has now escalated into an all-out war. The stakes have never been higher, and the UK's economic future hangs in the balance. So, what exactly is happening behind the scenes? Is it really just poor economic planning, or is something more insidious at play? The Bank of England, once a steady hand in guiding the nation's financial ship, has been sending warning after warning for months. Inflation continues to spiral out of control, far above the target set by the bank. The country's business investment is in a free fall, and growth projections have been slashed dramatically. Yet, despite these damning numbers, the government has not only failed to acknowledge the seriousness of the situation but seems to double down on an economic strategy that is clearly failing. The reality is clear: Rachel Reeves' economic policies are not working, and the consequences are becoming impossible to ignore. But perhaps the most worrying part of all this isn't just the economic figures themselves, it's the response from Labour's leadership. Despite the Bank of England's repeated criticisms, Keir Starmer remains resolute in defending his Chancellor, Rachel Reeves. Why? Is it loyalty to a political ally, or is there something much more personal, something far darker at play? Let's face it, the numbers are damning. The UK's GDP growth has been revised down to a pitiful 0.7%, a fraction of what was expected. Inflation remains stubbornly high at 3.7%, well above the bank's 2% target. The private sector is losing faith, with businesses scaling back investments and searching for safer places to put their money, outside the UK. The economic landscape has shifted dramatically in just a few months, and it's becoming more and more apparent that Reeves is not capable of steering the ship in the right direction. And yet, Starmer refuses to act. Why? What could possibly be worth risking the Labour Party's entire economic future, not to mention the country's? Sources inside the party are beginning to ask some very uncomfortable questions. Is Keir Starmer's refusal to remove Reeves truly about protecting his Chancellor's political position, or is it about protecting something more personal? The speculation is growing by the day, and the whispers in Westminster are growing louder. Could it be that there is a relationship between Starmer and Reeves that goes far beyond the professional? Are they bound by something deeper, something more personal, than mere political allegiance? If the answer is yes, the implications are nothing short of catastrophic. Reeves' economic policies, as flawed as they are only the surface of this escalating crisis. It's the growing tension between the Bank of England and Labour that threatens to unravel everything. The central bank has made its stance clear. Labour's strategy isn't just misfiring, it's actively hindering the UK's financial recovery. The economy is in freefall, and the longer Starmer delays making a change, the worse it will get. Behind the scenes, the bank is becoming increasingly frustrated, and now they are pushing hard for action. Yet, despite the growing pressure, Starmer stands by his Chancellor. Why? Is it really just about loyalty to a failing economic leader? Or is it about something far more explosive? As the Bank of England moves closer to the point of no return, the pressure on the Labour leadership is intensifying. But Keir Starmer isn't budging. The stakes here go far beyond economic failure. This is about political survival. If Starmer's loyalty to Reeves is truly rooted in personal connections rather than policy, then the consequences for Labour could be dire. We're talking about the collapse of the Labour leadership and the potential exposure of a scandal that could bring down the entire government. The whispers about a possible relationship between Starmer and Reeves have been circulating for months. But now, as the economic crisis deepens, these rumours are gaining momentum. Some insiders are beginning to believe that Starmer's defence of Reeves is not motivated by political loyalty, but rather by a personal bond that could have explosive consequences if exposed. Could this be the scandal of the decade? One that could unravel Starmer's entire political career and shake Labour to its core? Reeves may be failing on every economic front, but that hasn't stopped Starmer from defending her at every turn. He is digging in his heels, refusing to accept that the situation is untenable. And the longer this goes on, the more the question becomes, what is he hiding? Why is he risking Labour's entire economic credibility and the future of the party to protect her? Could it be that, as the Bank of England closes in on him, Starmer is holding on to Reeves for reasons that go far beyond the economy? Is he so desperate to keep her in power because removing her would expose a secret that could destroy him and the party forever? If there's a secret that could bring Starmer down, then the Bank of England is standing right at the door, ready to expose it. The central bank has already signalled that it will no longer stand idly by while Reeves' policies continue to destroy the UK's economy. But what will happen when the pressure finally forces Starmer to choose between the truth and his loyalty to a failing Chancellor? As the pressure mounts, the tension within Labour is reaching a breaking point. MPs who once stood by Starmer's leadership are now beginning to speak out in frustration. They are losing faith in both Reeves and Starmer, and whispers of a leadership challenge are beginning to spread like wildfire through Westminster. Some MPs are quietly positioning themselves as potential replacements for Reeves, ready to take over if the situation finally reaches its breaking point. But the real question is this: will Starmer act before it's too late, or will he be dragged down with Reeves when the whole house of cards finally falls? The growing dissent within Labour is reaching its tipping point. MPs are becoming more vocal, and some are even calling for Starmer's resignation if he doesn't act. They know that keeping Reeves in place is a disastrous decision, not just for the party, but for the country. The damage to Labour's economic credibility is already severe, and the longer Starmer delays, the more the public will turn on him. The polls are already showing that Labour is losing support, and if the situation continues to deteriorate, the next election could be a disaster for Starmer and his party. Reeves' days as Chancellor are numbered, and everyone knows it. The question now is, what will happen when she's finally removed? Will she go quietly, or will she expose whatever secrets she's been hiding with Starmer? The pressure is mounting, and the clock is ticking. Labour is on the brink of a full-blown crisis, and if Starmer continues to ignore the warning signs, it won't just be his leadership on the line, it will be the future of the Labour Party itself. The scandal is building. The betrayal is becoming clearer. And the consequences of inaction may just bring everything crashing down. The Labour Party is no longer the unified force Keir Starmer once believed it to be. The cracks that were once hidden behind closed doors are now splitting wide open, and at the centre of it all is Rachel Reeves. What was once a quiet murmur of dissatisfaction among party insiders has escalated into full-blown internal rebellion, and the consequences could be catastrophic, not just for Reeves, but for Starmer himself. The economic crisis is worsening by the day. The Bank of England has lost patience. The public is losing faith. And now, Labour MPs who once stood firmly behind Starmer are beginning to break ranks. The message is clear: if Reeves stays, the party's credibility collapses. If she goes, Labour risks exposing something even more dangerous, something that could bring the entire government crashing down. This is no longer about simple policy failures. This is about power. This is about survival. The pressure is mounting within the Labour ranks, with some MPs now openly questioning Starmer's judgment. The whispers of discontent have turned into urgent, behind-the-scenes discussions about what happens next if Starmer refuses to act. And what is Starmer doing? Nothing. Despite the evidence, despite the warnings, despite the clear political risk, he continues to shield Reeves from the inevitable. But why? Some within Labour are convinced that this isn't just about protecting a failing Chancellor, it's about protecting himself. Reports are surfacing that Starmer's refusal to remove Reeves isn't just about keeping Labour's economic narrative intact. It's about ensuring that certain secrets never see the light of day. Because let's not ignore the biggest question of all: if Reeves is so incompetent, why is Starmer fighting so hard to keep her in place? Some believe the answer is personal. Too personal. Journalists are already digging. Political insiders are whispering about a connection between Starmer and Reeves that goes far beyond professional loyalty. Could it be that Starmer's real fear isn't economic instability, but the exposure of something far more scandalous? Labour MPs have had enough. Some senior figures within the party, once Starmer's most loyal allies, have reportedly begun private discussions about replacing him if he refuses to remove Reeves. One MP, speaking anonymously, described the situation as a slow-motion train wreck, with Starmer risking the entire party's future for reasons that nobody fully understands. The frustration inside Labour HQ is palpable, with high-ranking officials now debating whether a coup against Starmer may be the only way forward. Because make no mistake, this crisis isn't going away. Every day that Reeves remains in power, Labour's credibility crumbles further. The polls are tanking. The public is growing restless. The opposition is circling like vultures, ready to tear Labour apart at the first sign of collapse. And yet, Starmer continues to defy all logic, standing by a Chancellor who has lost the trust of not just the Bank of England, but the British people. And that's where the real danger lies. The public isn't blind. They see the cracks forming within Labour. They hear the contradictions in Starmer's statements. They can sense when something doesn't add up. And right now, nothing about Starmer's unwavering defense of Reeves makes sense. The media knows it. The opposition knows it. And now, his own party knows it. This is more than just an economic crisis. This is a political disaster in the making. The question now is who will act first. Will Labour MPs force Starmer's hand before he takes them all down with him? Will the Bank of England go one step further and publicly call for Reeves to be removed, triggering a financial panic that Starmer can no longer contain? Or, and this is the real nightmare scenario for Starmer, will the press uncover something so damaging, so undeniable, that he has no choice but to step down himself? Because here's the reality: something is being hidden. And the longer Starmer fights to protect Reeves, the more suspicious it looks. If there is nothing to hide, why not cut her loose and save his own leadership? Unless, of course, removing her would expose something even worse. And that is the ticking time bomb at the heart of this scandal. The longer Starmer waits, the more fuel he adds to the fire. Labour MPs are already making plans for life after Starmer. Some are quietly aligning themselves with potential successors, knowing that if this situation continues to spiral, it won't just be Reeves who goes, it will be Starmer, too. And then there's the press. They can smell blood. Some journalists are reportedly sitting on information that, if confirmed, could detonate this entire government. The moment a credible leak surfaces, if concrete proof emerges of an inappropriate connection between Starmer and Reeves, this will turn from a political crisis into a full-scale scandal. And at that point, there will be no escape. For now, Starmer still has a choice, but that window is closing fast. If he acts now, removes Reeves, and tries to regain control of the economic narrative, he might be able to survive. But if he waits too long, if he continues to resist, he risks being dragged down with her. The party is on edge. The economy is collapsing. The press is circling. And Starmer, He's still clinging to a chancellor who has already lost the battle. This is no longer about if Reeves will go, it's about when, and who she will take down with her. Because if she falls, the truth will come out. And when that happens, the real crisis will begin. The walls are closing in on Keir Starmer. The crisis that began as a murmur of discontent has exploded into an all-consuming inferno, and every second that passes without decisive action pushes his government closer to the brink. He is trapped. If he stands by Rachel Reeves, he risks total economic collapse and an internal mutiny within Labour. If he removes her, he faces the fallout of a scandal so devastating it could bring down his entire administration. The Bank of England is running out of patience. Sources suggest that unless Starmer takes immediate action, the bank could publicly declare its lack of confidence in Reeves, an unprecedented move that would send shockwaves through the financial markets and ignite a crisis that no government could control. Investors would flee. The pound would nosedive. The UK's economic credibility, already battered, would crumble in real time. And Starmer? He would have no choice but to cut Reeves loose. But here's the real danger: Reeves will not go quietly. If she feels betrayed, if she believes she is being sacrificed to save Starmer's skin, she has the power to bring the whole house crashing down with her. There are whispers, rumours, the kind of allegations that are too dangerous to speak aloud but too explosive to ignore. What does she know? What could she reveal? Starmer's enemies, inside and outside the party, are sharpening their knives. The Tories have smelled blood and are ready to tear into Labour's economic credibility with a ferocity that could inflict irreversible damage. If Reeves falls, Labour will struggle to convince the public that it can be trusted with the economy ever again. It's not just one chancellor on the line, it's the entire Labour brand. And if the economic collapse wasn't bad enough, there is the growing personal scandal. The connection between Starmer and Reeves, once dismissed as mere speculation, is now the subject of intense scrutiny. The press are digging deeper. Journalists are chasing leads. Political insiders are whispering about a relationship that goes far beyond professional loyalty. If any solid evidence emerges, it won't just be Reeves' career that's over. Starmer himself will be finished. This is why he is paralyzed. He cannot afford to keep her, but he cannot afford to let her go. Every option leads to disaster. Every path ends in collapse. And the longer he waits, the worse it gets. Labour MPs are losing faith. Senior officials within the party are actively discussing succession plans, preparing for the inevitable moment when Starmer's leadership is no longer tenable. The public is watching. The polls are shifting. The illusion of Labour's economic competence is shattering in real time. The voters who once trusted Starmer to bring stability are now seeing a prime minister who looks weak, indecisive, trapped in a crisis of his own making. And when the trust of the electorate is lost, it is nearly impossible to recover. The real question now isn't whether Reeves will fall. That is inevitable. The real question is how much damage she will cause on the way down. If Starmer waits too long, if he allows this to spiral any further, he won't just lose a chancellor. He will lose control of his own government. Because the moment Reeves is removed, the floodgates could open. If there are secrets, if there is anything linking Starmer and Reeves in a way that could be used against him, those secrets won't stay buried for long. The Conservative Party will weaponize every scrap of information. The media will tear through every detail. And Starmer will find himself not leading a government, but fighting for his political survival. Labour is in free fall. The economy is hanging by a thread. The Prime Minister is running out of time. The Bank of England is preparing to act. The opposition is ready to strike. The public is losing faith. And Reeves? She is waiting. Watching. Knowing that if she is forced out, she can take everything down with her. Starmer's government is no longer stable. It is fragile, teetering on the edge of collapse. The next few days will decide everything. If he hesitates, if he miscalculates, he won't just lose Reeves, he will lose everything.